Hi guys, I'm back. Another video. I'm doing a lot better today than I was yesterday. I mean, I'm still struggling, but it's a lot to take in. So when I was trying to relax last night, I decided to put on the Framing Britney Spears documentary that is on Hulu right now. I have a lot of thoughts, a lot. Um, you know, with my own struggles of mental health. Um, I've heard of the Free Britney movement and everything that's been going on, and I've had the pleasure of seeing her twice in concert. Once in Orlando on her Femme Fatale tour, and once in Las Vegas on her Piece of Me residency. And she is phenomenal to see in concert. And so, I've always been curious to see, the inner workings of, I knew she was under this conservatorship, but I always thought that was for something, somebody older that couldn't, function, or I just didn't know all the inner workings, and this has just been going on for so long for her. We all know about her breakdown in like 2007, and the shaving of the head and the beating of the car with the umbrella, and everything like that. And how everyone just thought she was crazy. And I'll admit, I was one of them back then. I didn't know that. I'll admit now, I have depression and anxiety, and I also have been diagnosed with bipolar disorder. It's under control now, but there was a time when it wasn't, and there is a stigma around that. I'm a perfectly functional person. Yes, I have my moments where I break down and I'm upset, just like you saw me crying yesterday on my video, or I was struggling. But, when you watch this documentary and you see the things that she had to go through in the public eye, in front of the entire world, and how everybody was consistently criticizing her, I think the entire world owes her an apology. She was this little girl, in her teens, then all of a sudden she was this huge superstar. And, back then, everyone was criticizing her about the way she dressed. And, sure, that was scandalous back then, but, I get it now. When, of course, back in the day, I used to weigh 250 pounds. I don't now. I've lost a lot of weight. But when I first, she was right. She was talking about how, every girl wants to feel sexy and attractive, and you know what I mean? And she's right. When I started going out and, going to different, nightclubs and stuff, I like to dress like that and feel sexy and attractive, and you know what I mean? So, she was in her early 20s, that's her prerogative. Looking back at this now, she had old men on TV asking about her breasts, and everyone slut-shaming her. And the way, when her and Justin Timberlake broke up, that was just, looking back at that now, that was disgusting. And I loved him. And the way everyone blamed her, she did something wrong, when no one knows the inner workings of a relationship. And I loved him. I was oh, cry me a river. And you look back at that, and that was just no matter how hurt you are, when you're in the public eye like that, it's you just went along with that narrative and left her to be vilified. And Diane Sawyer is playing that clip of that, I can't even remember what politician, about saying how she would shoot Britney Spears if she could, if it weren't legal. And Britney's there starting to cry. breakups are hard for both parties. And then he's there talking about, like, how, Justin's there talking about how, like, yeah, he slept with Britney Spears and all this stuff. Like, why were people even asking Britney Spears if she was a virgin or not? I can remember back then, like, that was such a big deal. Why? Like, because with the same thing with, like, Jessica Simpson and all this stuff. Like, why? Whose business is that? And you have to remember, these weren't the days of, like, social media, like Twitter and Instagram, where, like, you have stars like Miley Cyrus who can, like, vent to their followers about how they're feeling. All this stuff was, like, bottled up inside her. She didn't have somebody to talk to. So, she had all this, deep inside, how she was being, harassed and, sure, at first, like, the paparazzi, like, I'm sure she was okay with, but then, when she was having these problems, and I'm sure, when she was being criticized about, having kids for the first times and her parenting styles, I mean, that's hard for anybody who isn't under a microscope. I don't know, it was just really, really sad for me to see, because you look back and it was just like, okay, wow. She goes in there and she shaves her head and the whole world sees, and it just became like this huge meme, like a punchline, like she's this crazy person. And all she said was she was tired of people touching her. And that was a cry for help, like, if you just see somebody that's crazy from that, you don't have the first idea of what's going on there. So I can even understand on some level, like, I work construction, I'm a girl. And sometimes I just had enough of not being respected. I'm an engineer. Listen to me. Stop looking at me like I'm an object. Like, I'm a person. You're not talking to the guy engineer over there like that. Like, I could never wear my hair down like this. And it's just hair. I know that's a weird, like, it's not really the same thing, but I just felt really awful watching that. And I can say, like, now seeing, like, through my own experiences and my own struggles with mental health, like, I can only imagine how that must have felt like, going somewhere and always having every little move you're making being documented on the cover of a magazine the next day, being criticized for every single thing you're doing, feeling like you have no one. And then your dad comes in, because you have this nervous breakdown, he uses that to his advantage when he hasn't really been there for you the entire time to take control of your money. And then you're stuck for years and years. It was just really sad to watch. And so I'm all about this hashtag Free Britney movement. She's been able to, do several successful tours. She's done, what was I can't remember what one of those shows. It wasn't The Voice. Was it The X Factor? I can't remember. But how could she do all that and, her Vegas residency if she wasn't cognizant enough to, like, take care of herself and her money and everything? I don't know. it's really sad. There's a lot to unpack there. And I'm really hoping, especially with this Framing Britney Spears documentary coming out, and there's getting more steam behind it, and I really, really recommend you to watch it. I really don't think we'll ever see Britney Spears perform again if she isn't in control of her life again. And that's just really sad, because it just seems like all the people around her are taking advantage of her. And that's really sad. So, anyways, this wasn't a really cheerful video. It was better than what was yesterday, but I just had some thoughts I wanted to talk about. That was really a really sad documentary to watch. But I really enjoyed it. You know, Britney Spears was an icon of my childhood, and I really recommend it. So, hope everyone's having a good Sunday.